Hi and welcome to Data Garden. I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for checking out my video. In today's video we want to talk about what is actually a good country to live in. And how I came to think about this was I happen to live in Germany, and recently there's a lot of pessimism about the economy of Germany and the inner politics, and friends of mine are considering leaving, moving elsewhere, and that has occupied my mind quite a bit. And as a statistician, I thought, well, nothing is more natural or obvious to me than to make a statistical comparison here. And so in this little R program, I did this, and I thought I'd share it with you. Maybe you also find it interesting, and you can also do it for the country that you live in. And yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing we need is a package called rvest, and you first have to install it if you don't have it already. And what this does is it allows us to extract content from HTML web pages. So in this case, you see here we want to extract some tables from Wikipedia pages. And yeah, so I'm going to use library to load that package. And then I'm going to load put in three URLs to Wikipedia pages that I want to use, which are for the GDP per capita in PPP variation. So this is a list of countries by GDP per capita. Then we have a list of countries by the Freedom of the World Index. And finally, a comparison of countries by the Human Development Index, which in addition to the economy also puts in measures such as the life expectancy and the standard of education. So with these links, here we have the sort of most important command of this little script that I made, which allows us to extract a table from a Wikipedia page. And so we're going to create a new table that's called GDP per capita PPP. And how we do this is we read HTML, which is a command from rvest. We put in the link, the URL to the Wikipedia page. And then we use the tidy format for the commands. And we take this read HTML command and take the result. And we take an HTML element from it of the type wikitable. So this is something that you sort of just have to know that it's called wikitable. You can look in the developer mode of your browser, or you can just use AI to find how it's called. I think that's maybe the easiest. And then finally, I want to add that within this table that the decimal mark is a comma and not a period mark. So let's load the first table and have a look at it. And we see, okay, it looks quite all right, I would say. Not great, but all right. And we have 3 columns or 4 columns here, the country. And we see we still have to do something about this because there's this extra symbol here. Also here we have to do something because these numbers aren't formatted as numbers, and there's some NA in here and other missing stuff. And also here this number seems to be sort of completely wrong. But luckily for me, we see we have 3 different estimates here from the IMF, the World Bank, and the CIA. And the IMF one is the latest 2026 data. So naturally I want to use this one. And yeah, so I'm going to remove these 2 columns, only keep the first 2. And then I'm also going to do a lot of data preparation in the next couple of steps in order to clean up this data. So let's select only the first 2 columns. Then let's give it a new column names, which will be country and GDP per capita. Then let's remove the comma from the numbers. We have seen here that there's a comma in between everywhere. And then let's format the column with the numbers in numeric format so that later on we can actually compare the countries, bring them in order and so on. Here we get a message, NA is introduced by coercion, that we can ignore because we have seen that there were some NA numbers or NA fields in there. So it's okay that we don't have, that we get NAs. Then we have seen that there was this little star asterisk in the country name. And I'm going to quickly print all the country names here. And we see that it's not just the extra symbol, but there's also a white space in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the last 2 digits from all of these characters. And after we have done that, I'm going to print the country names again, and we see it already looks much better. So we do see that there are still a few countries where there are some extra like characters here, and this will later on probably give us problems with our joins, but I decided like that laziness would get the best of me in this regard, and I didn't continue cleaning this up. Maybe if you're interested in comparing the countries where we have these problems, then you want to do some extra data cleaning steps within this code. But finally, I want to remove all the values where we don't have a GDP per capita, so I remove all the rows where the column is NA. Okay, then we continue doing the same thing with the second table. So that is the freedom of the world one. And in this case, we need the columns 2 and 3 because the first one has like a ranking. Then we give the column names, and then we format the column as numeric, which I guess I can quickly open it. In this case, the format is already almost correct. For example, here it's 8.07. So we just have to tell R that this is indeed a number. And now, this one, 8.07 is actually formatted as a number here, which is great. Then finally, we do the same thing with HDI. And there you see that this is a little bit different. That's because the Wikipedia page for the HDI ranking has 2 tables, one that gives a little bit of an overview and one that actually has the ranking. And we want the second one, so we use the command ends of type and we enter the value 2 here. So this gives us the HDI table, and we see that in addition to the actual value, it also has some percentage changes, which we don't want. So we want only the columns 2 and 3. Then we give new column names again, and we again format the relevant column as numeric so that we can actually make comparisons with it. So now comes sort of the core part, so to say, where we put everything together, and I'm going to create a new table. I'm going to call it total, which has all the columns in it, and I'm 2 times going to use the left join. First, I'm going to join the GDP per capita table with the index of economic freedom table, and then I'm going to take that new table and also going to join the HDI table, and I'm always going to use the column country here as the join criterion because that's of course what we want to compare. So let's run these 2, and now we have a new table here that has all the countries that we have, 194 countries, and the 3 criteria which we want to compare. And we do see that there are a few NAs here, which we could still filter out if we want to. However, in the next step, we're going to select all the countries that are in some degree with these with all 3 criteria comparable to our reference country, in my case Germany. And so these countries or territories such as Liechtenstein or Macau, they are going to be taken out automatically because they don't have all the 3 indicators here. So having that together, I asked myself, first of all, which countries are in all 3 criteria at least as good as Germany, if not better. So they are better in some ways and not worse in any way. And that is group 1 that I have created. And I don't know how about you, but I was expecting maybe to see 6 or 8 countries in this group, and I was quite surprised with the result. So I'm going to create it now. And we see there are only 3 observations, and one of them is Germany itself. And so only the countries Switzerland and Denmark are in all 3 criteria at least as good, if not better, than Germany. And I don't know about you, but I'm totally surprised by this result. I expected there to be many more countries. So after having seen this, I thought, 2 countries, it's a bit, it's not that much, is it? And so I thought about relaxing different criteria, and I started with the HDI, where I thought, if the HDI is a little bit worse than Germany, like let's say 5% lower, I guess that would maybe be something that I could live with. And so I created a second group where the GDP per capita is at least as high as that of Germany, if not higher. The same for the economic freedom, but the HDI we allow to be 5% lower than Germany. So once we create that, we see that this group now has 8 countries in addition to Germany. And here we already would have some choice, such as if we wanted to be a bit warmer, we could maybe go to Malta or Singapore. If we want an English-speaking country, we could go to the United States. I guess it's also warm there in parts of it. And so this already looks a bit better, but still 8 countries, that's not all that much. So I relaxed the criteria further, first only the GDP per capita and the HDI, and then all countries to a level of up to 20% lower than Germany. And I'm going to quickly create these 2 groups. And then we find, even after relaxing all these criteria, we have only 27 countries, or 28 including Germany itself. And I don't know what's your opinion about this, but I find that really not all that much. So it looks like, considering the pessimism about our economy that I've been talking about earlier, by and large we're still doing quite alright here in Germany. And I must say that this made me quite happy to see this. And who knows, maybe if you do the same analysis with a country that you live in, maybe you will also have some positive surprises there. And I would be very interested to hear which results you come up with. So I'm going to leave this code in the description of the video, so you can download it and use it for yourself and put in your own country. And of course, I would also be interested with these 3 criteria that I've used. Of course, they are more economically minded, and maybe you will want to use some completely different criteria. And I would also be interested what you think about that, which criteria you would use to compare countries. So yeah, I hope you have found this interesting and that you get some use out of this code. If you did find it interesting, then please give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content about statistics, about data science, about statistical programming, then make sure to subscribe to the channel, because I have more content coming up very soon. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye. Have a good day.